This is a story I do not often tell. I promise sincerely that this has scarred me for life. And although I have looked into psychological explanations for what I heard and natural explanations for what occurred, they remain unsatisfactory. When I was a child, I was scared of the dark. I swore to my mother I heard voices in it. They were not evil, but they were not familiar, and so they scared me. It was not uncommon in the middle of the night for me to wake up and hear whispers, as I would call them when explaining them to my mom. She figured they were just bumps in the night and typical kids' nightmare material. I tried often to explain to her that it was more than that they sounded different from one another the way people's voices do. On some nights I would get so scared from these whispers that I would sleep in my mom's bed with her. It was an added bonus that the bathroom was directly outside of her bedroom door for my late night tingles. I should add at this point that when walking out into the hall to go to the bathroom, you look directly down the stairs that would lead you into my living room on the first floor, as my mom's bedroom was on the second floor. On one such night, around Christmas, I awoke and felt the need to relieve myself. I walked out from the door and distinctly heard the phrase, "Look." And to my astonishment, a red light, almost like a spotlight, was cast upon the wall at the very bottom of the stairs. The light had no other source. It was by itself, and I was transfixed by it. Being a little kid and it only being a few days from Christmas, I knew what this light was. It was Santa, I thought to myself. I assumed he was downstairs delivering gifts, and he had a surprise just for me. I was so excited I began walking down the stairs to greet him, picking up my pace after the second step, as the shining light began to creep off the wall and fade into the darkness in the living room. That's when I heard him. A very strong masculine voice, different from the first. Not at all like my father's, not to say he isn't masculine. It was just distinctly different. It said, "Stop, right now, and go back up those stairs."
Stop right now and go back up those stairs.
I listened, turned around, and what happened next, I am not sure I would believe if someone had told me this same story. After reaching the top of the stairs, I heard a very loud crash that set me running back to my mother's bed, where I jumped straight under the covers and stayed there the whole night. The fear I felt from the loud crash had me on high alert and questioning what could have created such a loud sound. At this point, my young mind was still trying to figure out what Santa was doing, and I definitely was not going to disobey the order to stay upstairs. No amount of gifts could make me leave my mother's bed. When we awoke the next morning, the little red poinsettia flower lights my mother had put on the railing down the stairs were pulled straight down to the bottom of the stairs, some broken from what seemed like a forceful tear, laying in a single pile. The large framed painting in the living room had fallen from the wall and was right at the bottom of the staircase. The position of it made no sense at all, being that the painting had been hung on the wall left of the staircase, meaning it had turned the corner when it fell in order to land where it was. The painting had been mounted to the wall with large hooks due to the massive weight of the wooden frame as well, and the hooks were still in the mounted position. My mother could not explain it. My father was worried we had been the victims of a home invasion. My sister was crying. There was nothing missing. Nobody had broken in. There did not seem to be any reason this had happened. And then I saw it, and I kept quiet about it because I was so afraid that I could not force words out of my mouth. There, on the edge of the wooden picture frame, which had been facing up, were 3 indentations where the finish on the wood had been worn, almost as if in a forceful grip. Something down there had grabbed it and threw it down. That was what the bang was. I was mortified. After that day, I never heard a single voice again. I do not like to imagine what was waiting downstairs for me that night, if it was anything at all, but I can tell you that the reality was that something had physically acted upon 2 things in my house, near the bottom of that stairwell. After this, I had never heard another whisper again, which is sad, because in some ways I would have liked to thank the man that had stopped me from going down those stairs, and don't like to imagine what was attempting to get me to go down there. This happened when I was 7 years old. I am 20 years old now, and because of this incident, I'm still afraid of the dark, especially shadowy stairwells.